Hello.
Hello. It wasn't planned that we would do a weird pause and then say hello. It just worked out that way.
Welcome to the 5 minute review channel. If you watched the last video, you'll know that sometimes we go over 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Uh,
If a comic is particularly good or particularly bad, the review can go over.
all right, Rob, what are you going to talk to us about today?
I'm going to review Static Season 1. I don't know what that means, but it's called Static Season 1.
So I'll tell you something interesting about the comic Static.
Okay, cool.
Milestone
Returns
came out in the 90s.
Okay.
And Static was one of the characters. Icon was another character. It was Marvel's desperate attempt to get more people of color into the lineup.
Okay. You mean DC, yeah?
Oh yeah, sorry, DC.
Okay, just making sure.
So they were about to introduce Steel, but they were very void of people of color at all. So this is their effort. And now Milestone is back. It only lasted one year for every comic.
Oh.
So
maybe they're trying to reboot Static here.
Yeah. Did you watch the comic, the cartoon?
Yeah, a little bit. Not like all of it, but I've seen a few episodes of it.
It feels a lot like Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Okay. Do you have the timer?
Yeah, I sure do. Let's get going.
All right. Okay, so 5 minutes. Milestone Returns, Static Season 1. So something interesting, I guess, about this comic is it seems, and maybe it's just because obviously my family dynamic is much different, but it seems so overreactionary to kind of the situation. It's like, I got in a fight with another person who has superpowers and I punched him real hard. And like everyone's upset about that. Like through the whole comic, like it's like, oh, before everyone got powers, everything was perfect. Like life was good. Then everyone got powers and now everyone's sad. Literally everyone's sad. And they do try and like put it in this like that like the police or someone gassed all these people with like in public and the gas wasn't tested and it like gave people a bunch of pain, but it also gave a lot of people superpowers. So like everyone's been through this pain and superpowers, and now there's a really unfortunate panel in this comic where the guy Static ends up looking like a chubby dude, and it's really funny. But anyways, as far as the story goes, like it's a lot of setup. Like, okay, like you understand that he went through this pain, gained powers because of it, decided to like knock the lights out of this bully at school, and he's like, oh, he's been bullying people for years, like I'm just gonna, I couldn't stand it anymore, so I punched him. And then near the end or like halfway through the comic, this dude shows up at his house when his family's like trying to talk to him and be like, hey, like what do you think we should do about this, like and so this dude with fire powers shows up, and Static tries to like not fight him, and then he fights him. And I don't know. I guess the fight didn't have any panels that stood out to me as being like, oh my gosh, like that's such a cool action panel. Like they just weren't there. There's maybe one page that's pretty good. That ends with a big whathoom at the end of the page. But I don't know. we talked about it a little bit before the video started. Like I saw the cartoon show. I liked Static. I actually really like the idea of electricity as a superpower. I think I've always really liked that. Um, but this comic focused a lot in the beginning on just like, man, woe is me. Like this thing happened to me, and now I'm sad about it. And then at the end, this other dude who I assume is also sad because he got punched in the face or whatever, just comes, and I thought he was going to kill his family. In fact, there was a panel where I'm like, oh, this is where he kills one of the family members to like, prove a point. But instead, like the family's not there, and he burns their house down. And yeah, I have a bar for comics, whereas if I can't read the whole thing,
Right.
I won't review it. I read this whole thing. So, but it just, the theme isn't there for me. Like this is not a comic I would pick up again. Like it focuses too much on, for me, like, I don't know, if it made it feel like it was a burden to go through this whole situation, which I get. I mean, if you got gassed and it was super painful and it felt like you were burning up inside and then you got superpowers out of it, I understand how that's a traumatic situation. But like, you didn't die.
Right.
And now you've got these powers. He doesn't seem like he's gotten to like, I'm going to use it as a superhero level. But I think overall, give this like a.
How many stars?
Thing is, I don't think it's bad. I think I just didn't like it. I think the story just wasn't there for me. I'll give it like a 2. I don't want to destroy it, because I do think there's people who enjoy this, who will enjoy this story. It's just not for me. Yeah.
So the writer of this book is interesting.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll mention one more thing when you.
Yeah, go for it.
Just that we talked about how in the Static TV show he felt a lot more like Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Yes,
where it's kind of like a high schooler. He's fun and he has these powers, and
he's got a friend that supports him.
Right, he's very witty and funny. That was not this comic. Like he just seemed sad a lot.
Yeah, so the writer, Vida Ayala, Latina X Afro, so Afro Latina X, I guess is the way you said it.
Okay.
Latino rather X. She is fairly new to writing. She's been doing for DC at least, and done some Marvel stuff. Did some Morbius.
Okay.
Some of our favorite X of Swords.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Kind of splattered throughout Livewire. So she focuses on, she did early on, she did Wonder Woman and Supergirl, but she seems to focus on people of color, which is really great.
Yeah.
The artists Chris Cross and Dapper Ivy, both people of color, both very good artists, and artists and both illustrators. There's some panels in the Static X that is absolutely beautiful. Albeit,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, albeit very Dragon Ball Z at times. But I think, like you said, you don't read a comic unless you can get through it. If they're trying to carve a new path for Static X, that's awesome.
Sure.
I think they've put the right team together to do it. I think there's a Static X movie being talked about.
Oh, is there? That'd be cool.
I hope that it's not by the DC Universe people.
Yeah, I'd enjoy if that wasn't the case. I know that supposedly there's someone down there that's trying to clear out the DC universe people and start over.
Yeah, well, they're up for sale. DC is.
Oh,
So anyhow, that's complicated
yeah,
over there. That's very cool.
yeah.
I
No,
enjoyed it.
like I said, I don't think this was a bad comic. I think it just wasn't for me.
I mean, they definitely have the whole balance of like, with great power comes great responsibility. Like the dude, he beats the dude, but then the dude gets up and catches his house on fire and then literally
Yeah,
laughs in his face.
and he hesitates to fight him at the end. He does kind of give like a, hey, I'm sorry, he tries to talk to him, but
yeah,
obviously he's a bully guy, and then he got humiliated, so now he's gonna do his thing.
It is. I did find it a little hard to follow the characters, like the names and that kind of thing, because they didn't really like. They give you some people's names along the way, but they don't really go, that guy is so and so, and he'll come back later. So, yeah, very cool.
Yeah,
I wish Home 3 was better.
Was this
than
good?
This? Yeah. Oh well, we can all wish. Yeah, that's it. So thank you everyone for the two people that are gonna watch this.
Yeah,
awesome. And it's probably Rob,
me and Marcel are gonna watch it together,
and Murray. I never watch that stuff over again.
I do. I'm like, oh, I should, like, why are my jokes so bad? I shouldn't say
because
that.
they're not scripted. Like Brett
not,
and Link.
not even a little bit. Not even a little bit are they scripted.
Okay.
In case you couldn't tell.
I did not review this.
Oh. It's probably good.
I couldn't even bring myself to read it. Let's be honest. All right. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.